Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word swasmat, sorry, swasmat means from oneself. Because of attachment for money, the richest person is even afraid of himself. He fears that he may have locked his money in an unsafe manner or might have committed some mistake. Aside from the government and its income tax, and aside from thieves, even a rich man, even a rich man's own relatives are always thinking of how to take advantage of him and take away his money. Oh boy. Sometimes these relatives are described as Sva Chamaka Dasyu, which means rogues and thieves in the guise of relatives. Yes, it is. Therefore, there is no need to accumulate wealth or unnecessarily endeavor for more and more money. Yeah, if you have more and more money, that's actually sinful. The real business of life is to ask, who am I? And to understand oneself. One should understand the position of the living entity in this material world and understand how to return home back to Godhead. Now, that's very good, uh, bona fide uh, desire. 34. Those in human society who are intelligent should give up the original cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, attachment, poverty, and unnecessary labor. The original cause of all these is the desire for unnecessary prestige and money. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here is the difference between Vedic civilization and modern demoniac civilization. Vedic civilization concerned itself with how to achieve self realization, and for this purpose, one was recommended to have a small amount income to maintain body and soul together. The society was divided into Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, and the members of this society would limit their endeavors to meeting their minimum demands. The Brahmanas, in particular, would have no material desires. Because the Kshatriyas had to rule the people, it was necessary for them to have money and prestige. But the Vaishyas were satisfied with agricultural produce and milk from the cow. And if by chance there were excess trade was allowed, the Sudras were also happy, for they would get food and shelter from the three higher classes. In the demoniac civilization of the present day, however, there is no question of Brahmanas or Kshatriyas. There are only so called workers and a flourishing mercantile class who have no goal in life. Well, they want to make a lot of money, but they don't have any spiritual goal. According to Vedic civilization, the ultimate perfection of life is to take sannyasa. But at the present moment, people do not know why sannyasa is accepted. Because of misunderstanding, they think that one accepts sannyasa to escape social responsibilities. But one does not accept sannyasa to escape from responsibility to society. Generally, one accepts sannyasa at the fourth stage of spiritual life. One begins as a brahmachari, then becomes a grihastha, a vanaprastha, and finally a sannyasi to take advantage of the duration of one's life by engaging oneself fully in self realization. Sannyasa does not mean begging from door to door to accumulate money for sense gratification. However, because in Kali Yuga people are more or less prone to sense gratification, immature sannyasis. Immature sannyasa is not recommended. Shiva Rupa Goswami writes in the Nectar of Instruction. Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangas chalolam cha sadbir bhaktir vinasyati. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in following six activities. One, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. Two, over endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Three, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. Four, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. Five, associating with worldly minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And six, being greedy for mundane achievements. A sannyasi should have an institution meant to preach Krishna consciousness. There it is. He need not accumulate money for himself. We recommend that as soon as money accumulates in our Krishna consciousness movement, 50% of it should be invested in printing books and 50% for expenditures, especially in establishing centers all over the world. The managers of the Krishna consciousness movement should be extremely cautious in regard to this point. Otherwise, money will be the cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, material attachment, material poverty, and unnecessary hard work. When I was alone in Vrindavan, I never attempted to construct matas or temples. Rather, I was fully satisfied with the small amount of I could gather by selling back to Godhead. And thus I would provide for myself and also print the literature. When I went to foreign countries, I lived according to the same principle. But when Europeans and Americans began to give money profusely, I started temples and deity worship. The same principle should still be followed. Whatever money is collected should be spent for Krishna and not a farthing for sense gratification. A farthing means like a penny. This is the Bhagavata principle. Text 35. The bee and a python are two excellent spiritual masters who give us exemplary instructions regarding how to be satisfied by collecting only a little and how to stay in one place and not move. Text 36. From the bumblebee, I have learned to be unattached to accumulating money. For although money is as good as honey, anyone can kill its owner and take it away. Purport. The honey gathered in the comb is taken away by force. Therefore, one who accumulates money should realize that he may be harassed by, one second, the governments. The biggest thieves are the governments, especially the government tax guys. The government, or by thieves, or even killed by enemies. Especially in this age of Kali Yuga, it is said that instead of protecting the money of the citizens, the government itself will take away the money with the force of law. The learned Ramana had therefore decided that he should not accumulate any money. One should own as much as he immediately needs. There is no need to keep a big balance at hand, along with the fear that it may be plundered by government or by thieves. That's a fact. Text 37. I do not endeavor to get anything, but am satisfied with whatever is achieved in its own way. If I do not get anything, I am patient and not and unagitated like a python, and lie down in this way for many days. One should learn detachment. Purport. One should learn detachment from the bumblebees, for they collect drops of honey here and there and keep it in their honeycomb. But then someone comes and by force takes all the honey away, leaving the bumblebees with nothing. Therefore, one should learn from the bumblebee not to keep more money than one needs. Similarly, one should learn from the python to stay in one place for many, many days without food and then eat only if something comes in its own way. Thus, the learned Brahmana gave instructions gained from two creatures, namely the bumblebee and the python. So you can learn. You can learn from bees and pythons also. 38. Sometimes I eat a very small quantity and sometimes a great quantity. Sometimes the food is very palatable, and sometimes it is stale. Sometimes prasada is offered with great respect, and sometimes food is given neglectfully. Sometimes I eat during the day, and sometimes at night. Thus, I eat what is easily available. Text 39. To cover my body, I use whatever is available, whether it be linen, silk, cotton, bark, or deerskin, according to my destiny, and I am fully satisfied and unagitated. Well, that's someone who is self uh, who is self realized and is not what you would call a hoarder. He's satisfied with whatever Krishna gives him. Text 40. Sometimes I lie on the surface of the earth, sometimes on leaves, grass, or stone, sometimes on a pile of ashes, or sometimes by the will of others, in a palace, on a first class bed with pillows. Purport. The learned Brahmana's description indicates different types of births. For one lies down according to one's body. Sometimes one takes birth as an animal, and sometimes as a king. When he takes birth as an animal, he must lie down on the ground. And when he takes birth as a king or very rich man, he is allowed to lie in first class rooms in huge palaces, decorated with beds and other furniture. Such facilities are not available, however, at the sweet will of the living entity. Rather, they are available by the supreme will, Parechaya, or by the arrangement of Maya. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 1861, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hridese Rijuna Tistati Ramayam Sarvabhutani Yantarudrani Mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Quote, that's the end of quote. The living entity, according to his material desires, receives different types of bodies, which are nothing but machines offered by the material nature, according to the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By the will of the Supreme, one must take different bodies with different means for lying down. Text 41. Oh, my Lord. Sometimes I bathe myself very nice, smear sandalwood pulp all over my body, put on a flower garland, and dress in fine garments and ornaments. Then I travel like a king on the back of an elephant, or on a chariot or horse. Sometimes, however, I travel naked, like a person haunted by a ghost. Text 42. Different people are of different mentalities. Therefore, it is not my business either to praise them or to blaspheme them. I only desire their welfare, hoping that they will agree to become one with the Supersoul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As soon as one comes to the platform of Bhakti Yoga, one understands fully the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, is the goal of life. Vasudeva Sarvam Iti Samhatma Sudurlava. This is the instruction of all the Vedic literature. Vedaista Sarvir Aham Eva Vedya Sarvakar Dharmam Parityaja Mam Ekam Saranam Raja. There is no use in praising someone for material qualifications or blaspheming them for material disqualifications. In the material world, good and bad have no meaning because if one is good, he may be elevated to higher planetary system, and if one is bad, he may be degraded to the lower planetary systems. People of different mentalities are sometimes elevated and sometimes degraded. But this is not the goal of life. Rather, the goal of life is to become free from elevation and degradation and take to Krishna consciousness. Therefore, a saintly person does not discriminate between that which is supposedly good and supposedly bad. Rather, he desires for everyone to be happy in Krishna consciousness, which is the ultimate goal of life. Ah, now look, I like that. That's very nice. He desires for everyone to be happy in Krishna consciousness, which is the ultimate goal of life. That is a wonderful statement. Okay, text 43. The mental concoction of discrimination between good and bad should be accepted as one unit and then invested in the mind, which should then be invested in the false ego. The false ego should be invested in the total material energy. This is the process of fighting false discrimination. This is a very interesting verse. Let me read that again. The mental concoction of discrimination between good and bad should be accepted as one unit and then invested in the mind, which should then be invested in the false ego. The false ego should be invested in the total material energy. This is the process of fighting false discrimination. This verse describes how a yogi can become free from material affection. Because of material attraction, a karmi cannot see himself. Gyanis can discriminate between matter and spirit, but the yogis, the best of whom are the bhakti yogis, want to return home, back to Godhead. Yeah, that should be the real goal of life. The karmis are completely in illusion. The gyanis neither in illusion nor in positive knowledge. But the yogis, especially the bhakti yogis, are completely on the spiritual platform, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Mam chayo vipacharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunam santi yaitam brahmabhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down under any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Very, very important verse. Thus, a devotee's position is secure. A devotee is at once elevated to the spiritual platform. Others, such as Jnanis and Hatha yogis, can only gradually ascend to the spiritual platform by nullifying their material discrimination on the platform of psychology and nullifying the false ego by which one thinks. I am this body, a product of matter. One must merge the false ego into the total material energy and merge the total material energy into the supreme energetic. This is the process of becoming free from material attachment. Material attraction. Okay, so the main point here is one who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down under any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Thus, a devotee's position is secure. It's very important. A devotee is at once elevated to the spiritual platform. Others, such as Jnanis and Hatha yogis, can only gradually ascend to the spiritual platform by nullifying their material discrimination on the platform of psychology and nullifying the false ego by which one thinks. I am this body, a product of matter. Well, you have to nullify that. One must merge the false ego into the total material energy and merge the total material energy into the supreme energetic. This is the process of becoming free from material attraction. Okay? What does it mean exactly? Merge, uh, uh, one must merge the false ego into the total material energy and merge the total material energy into the supreme energetic. This is the process of becoming free from material attraction. Basically, it's saying one should be engaged in devotional service always. That will solve all these problems. But devotional service under the direction of a bona fide devotee. Then all these problems of life go away. Text 44. A learned, thoughtful person must realize that material existence is illusion. This is possible only by self-realization. A self-realized person who has actually seen the truth should retire from all material activities, being situated in self-realization. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. By an analytical study of the entire constitution of the body, one can surely come to the conclusion that the soul is different from all the body's material constituents, such as earth, water, fire, and air. Thus, the difference between the body and the soul can be realized by a person who is thoughtful. Manasi or Muni. Manasi or Muni. And after this realization of individual spiritual soul, and after this realization of the individual spirit soul, one can very easily understand the supreme spirit soul. If one thus realizes that the individual soul is subordinate to the supreme spiritual soul, he achieves self-realization. As explained in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there are two souls within the body. The body is called Kshetra, and there are two Kshetragyas, or occupants of the body, namely the Supersoul, or Paramatma, and the individual soul. The Supersoul and the individual soul are like two birds sitting on the same tree. The tree is the material body. One bird, the individual, forgetful bird, is eating the fruit of the tree, not caring for the instructions of the other bird, which is only a witness to the activities of the first bird. Who is his friend? When the forgetful bird comes to understand the supreme the supreme friend who is always with him and trying to give him guidance in different bodies, he takes shelter at the lotus feet of the supreme bird. As explained in the yoga process, dhyana vastita tad gatena manasa pasyanti yam yogina. When one actually becomes a perfect yogi, by meditation he can see the supreme friend and surrender unto him. This is the beginning of bhakti yoga, or actual life in Krishna consciousness. In other words, when a devotee engages in devotional service by the help of bona fide devotees, he begins to see the supreme friend, meaning Krishna, and surrender unto him. This is the beginning of bhakti yoga, or actual life in Krishna consciousness. Text 45. Prahlad Maharaja, you are certainly a self-realized soul and a devotee of the Supreme Lord. You do not care for public opinion or so-called scriptures. For this reason, I have described to you without hesitation the history of my self-realization. Purport, excuse me, a person who is actually a devotee of Krishna does not care about so-called public opinion and Vedic or philosophical literatures. Prahlad Maharaja, who was such a devotee, always defied the false instructions of his father and the so-called teachers who were appointed to teach him. Instead, he simply followed the instructions of Narada Muni, his guru, and thus he always remained a stalwart devotee. This is the nature of an intelligent devotee. The Srimad Bhagavatam instructs, Yajna Sankirtana Parayar Yajantahi Sumeda Saha. In other words, one who is actually very intelligent must join the Krishna consciousness movement, realizing his own self as an eternal servant of Krishna, and thus practice constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, that is the ultimate realization of a genuine devotee. What is that? To practice constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That is the way to actually become very intelligent and join the Krishna consciousness movement, realizing his own self as the eternal servant of Krishna, and thus practice constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so this is the nature of an intelligent devotee. One who is actually very intelligent must join the Krishna consciousness movement, realizing his own self as an eternal servant of Krishna, and thus practice constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is the real culture of Krishna consciousness. So it's a very important purport. Text 46. Narada Muni continued, after Prahlad Maharaja, just one second. Narada Muni continued, after Prahlad Maharaj, the king of the demons, heard these instructions from the saint, he understood the occupational duties of a perfect person, Paramahamsa. Thus, he duly worshipped the saint, took his permission, and then left for his own home. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 8.128, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kiva Vipra Kiva Nyasi Sudra Kaninaya, Ye Krishna Tattvavita Se Guru Haya. A guru or spiritual master can be anyone who is well conversant with the science of Krishna. Therefore, although Prahlad Maharaj was a grihasta ruling over the demons. He was Paramahamsa, the best of human beings, and thus he is our guru. In the list of gurus or authorities, Prahlad Maharaj's name is therefore mentioned. Swayambur Narada Sambhu Kumara Kapilo Manu Prahlado, there it is, Janako Visma Valir Vayasakir Vayam. Our Prahlad Maharaj is mentioned in this list of great authorities or gurus. Swayambhu or Narada Sambhu, Komara Kapilo Manu, Prahlado, Janako, Vismo, Valir Vayasakir Vayam. The conclusion is that a Paramahansa is an exalted devotee, Bhagavad Priya. Such a Paramahansa may be in any stage of life, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyasa, and being equally liberated and exalted. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 7th canto, 13th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Behavior of a Perfect Person. That is what we must learn, the behavior of a perfect person. Obviously, the perfect person is always chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The perfect person has learned that the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the only mantra that can be learned and performed in this age of Kali Yuga. And one can join the Krishna consciousness movement, realizing his own self as an eternal servant of Krishna, and thus practice constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That is the real purpose of life, to always chant and glorify the Lord with by the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And another very important statement here is it says, a person who is actually a devotee of Krishna does not care about so-called public opinion and Vedic or philosophical literatures. Yeah. Prahlada Maharaj, who was such a devotee, always defied the false instructions of his father and the so-called teachers who were appointed to teach him. Instead, he simply followed the instructions of Narada Muni, his guru, and thus he always remained a stalwart devotee. This is the nature of an intelligent devotee. The Srimad Bhagavatam instructs, Yajna Sankirtana Paraya, Yajante Hi Sumeda Saha. One who is actually very intelligent must join the Krishna consciousness movement, realizing his own self as an eternal servant of Krishna, and thus practice constant chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Wow, that makes it all very clear. There's no equivocation there. We must join the Hare Krishna movement under the direction of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and constantly practice chanting the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Text 46. Narada Muni continued. One second, please. Narada Muni continued, after Prahlad Maharaj, the king of the demons, heard these instructions from the saint, he understood occupational duties of a perfect person, or paramahansa. Thus, he duly worshipped the saint, took his permission, and then left for his own home. Purport: as quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 8, 128, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi Sudra Kaninaya, Ye Krishna Tattva Vita Se Guru Haya. A guru, or spiritual master, can be anyone who is well conversant with the science of Krishna. Therefore, although Prahlad Maharaj was a grihastha ruling over the demons, he was a paramahansa, the best of human beings, and thus he is our guru. In the list of gurus or authorities, Prahlad Maharaj's name is therefore mentioned. Swayambur Narada Sambhu Komara Kapilo Mano Prahlado, there it is, Janako Bhisma Valar Vaya Sakir Vayam. The conclusion is that the Paramahamsa is an exalted devotee, Bhagavat Priya. Such a Paramahamsa may be in any stage of life, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyasa, and be equally liberated and exalted. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 7th canto, 13th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Behavior of a Perfect Person. Wow, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, now we go on to the next chapter, 14, which says, Ideal Family Life. Oh, now this is a very important chapter. Ideal Family Life. This chapter describes the occupational duties of the householder according to time, the country, and the performer. When Yudhisthira Maharaj became very much inquisitive about the occupational duties for the householder, Narada Muni advised him that a grihastha's first duty is to be fully dependent on Vasudeva, Krishna, and to try to satisfy him in all respects by executing one's prescribed devotional service. This devotional service will depend on the instructions of authorities and the association of devotees who are actually engaged in devotional service. The beginning of devotional service is Shravanam, or hearing. One must hear from the mouths of realized devotees, realized souls. In this way, the grihastha's attraction to his wife and children will gradually be reduced. As for the maintenance of his family, a grihastha, while earning what he requires for his living, must be very conscientious and must not undergo extraordinary endeavor simply to accumulate money and unnecessarily increase in material comforts. Although a grihastha should externally be very active in earning his livelihood, he should internally be situated as a fully self-realized person without attachment for material gains. His dealings with family members or friends should be performed simply to fulfill their purpose. One should not be extravagantly engaged in this way. Instructions from family members and society should be accepted superficially. But in essence, the grihastha should be engaged in occupational duties advised by the spiritual master, and shastra. Specifically, a grihastha should engage in agricultural activities to earn money. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 1844, Krishi Go Raksha Vanityam, agriculture, cow protection, and trade are special duties of grihastas. If by chance or by the grace of the Lord more money comes, it should be properly engaged for the Krishna consciousness. One should not be eager to earn more money simply for sensual pleasure. A grihasta should always remember that one who is endeavoring to accumulate more money than necessary is to be considered a thief. Oh, we've got a lot of thieves nowadays in this world, and is punishable by the laws of nature. A grihasta should be very much affectionate toward lower animals, birds, and bees, treating them exactly like his own children. Wow. Animals, birds, and bees, treating them exactly like his own children. A grihasta should not indulge in killing animals or birds for sense gratification. He should provide the necessities of life, even to the dogs and the lowest creatures, and should not exploit others for sense gratification. Factually, according to the instructions of the Srimad Bhagavatam, every grihasta is a great communist who provides the means of living for everyone. Okay, devotees, we should, if you're a grihasta, you should become a communist. Prabhupada is wonderful. You should become if you're a grihasta, you should become a great communist who provides the means of living for everyone. Whatever a grihasta may possess, he should equally distribute to all living entities without discrimination. The best process is to distribute prasada. Okay, well, that's what we do. We go in Sankirtan and we distribute prasadam as well as books of Krishna consciousness. And we invite people to the temple to come and regularly have nice prasadam and engage in chanting, dancing, and feasting at the Hare Krishna temples. A grihasta should not be very much attached to his wife. He should engage even his own wife in serving a guest with all attention. Whatever money a grihasta accumulates, by the grace of God, he should spend in 5 activities, namely, worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, receiving Vaishnavas and saintly persons, distributing prasada to the general public and to all living entities, offering prasada to his forefathers, and also offering prasada to his own self. So these are the 5 activities of a grihasta. Grihastas should always be ready to worship everyone, as mentioned above. The grihasta should not eat anything not offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As it is said in the Bhagavad Gita 3:13, Yajna Shisastitama Samto Muchyante Sarvakilbasai. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food that is offered first for sacrifice. Now you see how important Mahaprasadam is, or prasadam. Because one is released from all kinds of sins because they eat food that is offered first for sacrifice. Krishna consciousness is the only movement in which one can be liberated from the material world by eating. Just imagine eating not anything, but eating only Krishna Prasad. The Grihastha should also visit the holy places of pilgrimage mentioned in the Puranas. In this way, he should fully engage in worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the benefit of his family, his society, his country, and humanity at large. Okay, this is wonderful statements by Srila Prabhupada's purports. Srila Prabhupada has given us the secret to success, real success, not fake success. What is that real success? The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food that is offered first for sacrifice, meaning Krishna Prasad. The Grihastha should also visit the holy places of pilgrimage mentioned in the Puranas. In this way, he should fully engage in worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the benefit of his family, his society, his country, and humanity at large. In this way, he should fully engage in worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the benefit of his family, his society, his country, and humanity at large. Wow. Text number 1. Maharaj Yudhisthira inquired from Narada Muni, O my Lord, O great sage, kindly explain how we who are staying at home without knowledge of the goal of life may also easily attain liberation according to the instructions of the Vedas. Now, see, that is a real question. Kindly explain how we who are staying at home, okay, that's all of us almost. We're not itinerant, uh, uh, itinerant persons, always moving from one place to another. We are staying at home. So, kindly explain how we who are staying at home without knowledge of the goal of life may also easily attain liberation according to the instructions of the Vedas. Now, that's a real good question to be answered. Purport. In the previous chapters, the great sage Narada has explained how a brahmachari, a vanaprastha, and sannyasi should act. He first explained the dealings of a brahmachari, vanaprastha, and sannyasi because these three ashramas are statues of life, are extremely important for fulfillment of the goal of life. One should note that in the brahmachari ashrama, vanaprastha ashrama, and sannyasa ashrama, there is no scope for sex life. Whereas sex is allowed in grihastha life under regulations. Narada Muni, therefore, first described brahmacharya, vanaprastha, and sannyasa because he wanted to stress that sex is not at all necessary. Okay, now that's a major statement right there. Sex is not at all necessary, although one who absolutely requires it is allowed to enter grihastha life or household life, which is also regulated by the Shastras and Guru. Yudhisthira Maharaj could understand all this. Therefore, as a grihastha, he presented himself as Griha Muda Dihi, one who is completely ignorant of the goal of life. A person who, of course, Yudhisthira was not a Griha Muda Dihi, but he acted like that. A person who remains a householder in family life is certainly ignorant of life's goal. He is not very much advanced in intelligence. As soon as possible, one should give up his so called comfortable life at home and prepare to undergo austerity or tapasya. Tapo divyam putraka, according to the instructions given by Rishabhadeva to his sons, we should not create a so called comfortable situation, but must prepare to undergo austerity. This is how a human being should actually live to fulfill life's ultimate goal. Okay, these are nice, very, very nice, profound statements. Therefore, as a Grihastha, he presented Yudhishthira Maharaj could understand all this. Therefore, as a Grihastha, he presented himself as Griha Mudadi, one who is completely ignorant of the goal of life. A person who remains a householder in family life is certainly ignorant of life's goal. He is not very much advanced in intelligence. As soon as possible, one should give up his so called comfortable life at home and prepare to undergo austerity or tapasya. Tapo divyam putraka, according to the instructions given by Rishabhadeva to his sons, we should create a so called comfortable, but we should not create a so called comfortable situation, but must prepare to undergo austerity. This is how a human being should actually live to fulfill life's ultimate goal. Okay, there it is. Very, very important. Second, please. Text number 2. And we're almost finished now. Narada Muni replied, my dear king, those who stay at home as householders must act to earn their livelihood. And instead of trying to enjoy the results of their work themselves, they should offer these results to Krishna, Vasudeva. How to satisfy Vasudeva in this life can be perfectly understood through association of great devotees of the Lord. Yeah, if you want to know how to be perfectly engaged in devotional service, you have to satisfy Vasudeva or Krishna in this life to be perfectly understood through the association of great devotees of the Lord. Purport. The format for a hostile life should be dedication to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anashrita karma phalam, karyam karma karutiya, sa sannyasi cha yogi cha, na niragnir cha chakriya. One who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life. And he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no work. Whether one acts as a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyasi, he must act only for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. This should be the principle for everyone's life. Narada Muni has already described the principles of life for a brahmachari, vanaprastha, and sannyasi. And now he is describing how a grihastha should live. The basic principle is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. The science of satisfying the Supreme Lord can be learned as described here. Shakshat Upasita Mahamunin. Shakshat Upasita Mahamunin. The word Mahamunin refers to great saintly persons or devotees. Saintly persons are generally known as munis, or thoughtful philosophers concerned with transcendental subject matters, and Mahamunin refers to those who have not only thoroughly studied the goal of life, but who are actually engaged in satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. These persons are known as devotees. Unless one associates with devotees, one cannot learn the science of Vasudevarpana, or dedicating one's life to Vasudeva, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In India, the principles of this science were followed strictly. Even 50 years ago, I saw that in villages of Bengal and the suburbs of Calcutta, people engaged in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam daily when all their activities ended, or at least in the evening before going to bed. Everyone would hear Bhagavatam. Bhagavata classes were held in every village, and thus people had the advantage of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes everything about the aim of life, liberation or salvation. This will be clearly explained in the next verses. Well, unfortunately, because of television, this culture that was just explained here has severely been, uh, let's say, neglected in India. In India, the principles of this science were followed strictly. Even 50 years ago, I saw that in villages of Bengal and the suburbs of Calcutta, people engaged in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam daily when all their activities ended, or at least in the evening before going to bed. Everyone would hear the Bhagavatam. Bhagavata classes were held in every village, and thus people had the advantage of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes everything about the aim of life, liberation or salvation. This will be clearly explained in the next verses. Text 3 and 4. A grihasta must associate again and again with saintly persons, and with great respect he must hear the nectar of activities of the Supreme Lord and his incarnations, as these activities are described in Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas. Thus, one should gradually become detached from affection for his wife and children, exactly like a man awakening from a dream. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Krishna consciousness movement has been established to give grihastas all over the world an opportunity to hear Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita specifically. You see how much emphasis Prabhupada gives to Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. The process, as described in many ways, is one of hearing and chanting, Shravana and Kirtan. Shravana, Shinvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtan. Everyone, especially the grihastas, who are mudha, ignorant about the goal of life, should be given opportunities to hear about Krishna simply by hearing, by attending lectures in the different centers of the Krishna consciousness movement, where topics of Krishna from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are discussed. They will be purified of their sinful inclination for constant indulgence in illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling, which have all become prominent in modern days. Thus, they can be raised to the status of light, punya shravana kirtana, simply by joining kirtana, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and by hearing about Krishna from Bhagavad Gita. One must be purified, especially if he also takes prasada. This is all going on in the Krishna consciousness movement. What a wonderful movement Krishna consciousness is, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and the Vaishnava Acharya. Another specific description here is Srinvan Bhagavato Vikshanam Avatara Katam Ritam. It is not that because one has once finished Bhagavad Gita, he should not hear it again. This is very important. Yeah, just because one reads Bhagavad Gita once does not mean we don't have to read it anymore. We should constantly be reading Bhagavad Gita, and every time we come to the end, we should start all over again for the rest of our life. It is not that because one has once finished Bhagavad Gita, he should not hear it again. The word avikshanam is very important. We should hear again and again. There is no question of stopping. Even if one has read these topics many times, he should go on reading again and again, because Bhagavad Gita, the words spoken by Krishna and spoken by Krishna's devotees about Krishna, are amritam, nectar. The more one drinks this amritam, or nectar, the more one advances in his eternal life. Well, we're hearing it every day, twice a day here. We could even hear it 3 times a day, or we could just hear it all the time. The human form of life is meant for liberation, but unfortunately, due to the influence of Kali Yuga, every day the Grihastas working hard like asses. Early in the morning, they rise and travel even 100 miles away to earn bread, especially in the Western countries. I've seen that people awaken at 5 o'clock to go to offices and factories to earn their livelihood. People in Calcutta and Bombay also do this every day. They work very hard in the office or factory, and again, they spend 3 or 4 hours in transportation returning home. Then they retire at 10 o'clock and again rise early in the morning to go to their offices and factories. This kind of hard labor is described in the Shastras as the life of pigs and stool eaters. Oh boy, oh my God. Hare Krishna. And it's the life of pigs and stool eaters. Nayam deho deha vajam nirloke kastan kamam arhate vid pujam ye. Of all living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification. There you go. Should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stool. One must find some time for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. This is Vedic culture. One should work 8 hours at the most to earn his livelihood, and either in the afternoon or in the evening, a householder should associate with devotees to hear about the incarnations of Krishna and his activities, and thus be gradually liberated from the clutches of Maya. However, instead of finding time to hear about Krishna The householders, after working hard in offices and factories, find time to go to a restaurant or a club where instead of hearing about Krishna and his activities, they are very much pleased to hear about the political activities of demons and non devotees and to enjoy sex. Oh my God, what a horrible thing that is. And to enjoy sex, wine, women, and meat, and in this way waste their time. This is not Grihastha life, but demoniac life. The Krishna consciousness movement, however, with its centers all over the world, gives such fallen and condemned persons an opportunity to hear about Krishna. In a dream, we form a society of friendship and love. And when we awaken, we see that it has ceased to exist. Yeah, everything is temporary and material. Simply, one's gross society, family, and love is also a dream, and this dream will be over as soon as one dies. Therefore, whether one is dreaming in a subtle way or a gross way, these dreams are all false and temporary. Oh,
So we're about
time is
time.
over. Yeah. One's real business is to understand that one is soul, aham brahmasmi, and that his activities should therefore be different. Then one can be happy. Brahmabhuta prasanatma nasochatina kamsati samak sarve subhute su mad bhaktim labhate param. One who is transcendently situated at once realizes the supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward all living entities. In that state, he attains pure devotional service to me, meaning Krishna. Bhagavad Gita 18:54. One who is engaged in devotional service can very easily be liberated from the dream of materialistic life. Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to the purports of Srila Prabhupada and also all glories to Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Are there any questions or comments? Are there any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol.
Yeah, so I came across recently one ex co-worker. So I just wanted your, I thought this would be like something that you would find interesting. So he's this Russian guy who got laid off from Microsoft, and he told me he's doing a startup, and he's doing this mobile app to take picture of everyone's soul. Like, so I didn't get into particular details because I was in a hurry, but I was thinking like I had to mention this to Maharaj and see what your reaction is.
He is a rascal. He's cheating people. He found a new way to make money. Take picture of your soul. Well, you got to make a living, so that's the way he makes money.
Yeah, it's.
Does he
I mean,
do
it's.
it? Does he do it for free?
No. He's. Yeah, no. He's. I think he's wanting to charge something, obviously, for it. But I should have told him it's like 1/10,000th of the tip of the hair. So I don't know how you can get a picture of it, but
Well, yeah. So he's going to have to cheat people and make things up so that they can see the soul. There's, in every millennium, there are the cheated and the cheaters. That's what's going on in the world. The cheated and the cheaters. So this guy has come up with a new way of cheating people. Of course, what he's proposing is interesting. He's taking a picture of the soul, is that it?
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah.
How much does it cost?
I haven't asked him. I can message him to.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know how much it costs to have your soul pictured. Why don't you ask him and let us know what his answer is?
Sure.
Haribo, you see, every day there's a new rascal that is born who engages in unbona fide activities only to make money and to cheat people. Therefore, they're very clever, very, very clever people. He's going to take pictures of your soul. What do you do with that picture?
I Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, I didn't get into details with him.
You should find out as much as you
It's
can. This is something that's interesting.
yeah, yeah,
Well, you
yeah.
do, do
He
some
was saying
research.
he was saying that he would basically use the whatever social media posts that people make, and from that he would make the picture of their soul. So it's not like an actual
Picture of the soul.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it's something he's come up with where based on what they're writing and what they're messaging, that he would come up with that.
Very interesting. A new way of cheating. Every day, a new rascal comes and teaches people how to be cheated. Anyway, find out a little bit more
Yes, Maharaj.
and ask him how much it costs.
Sure, I will. Thank you.
Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare.
The real issue is this. Someone tells you that he has found a way to take a picture of your soul. Now, the question in your mind should be, did Prabhupada ever say this or do this? If the answer is no, then just ignore this person because he has to be a charlatan. If the
Yes.
question is yes, then you may, you know, pursue it. So we should always ask this question: is this something that Prabhupada did or recommended to do?
Yes, Maharaj. I both.
Hare Krishna. Oh, glory to Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. It takes a picture of your soul.
Hare Krishna. I think he needs to read the Bhagavad Gita second chapter.
Yeah.
That the soul cannot be seen, the soul cannot be touched, the soul cannot.